Welcome back to the Exorcist, Bestiary. Welcome back to the Exorcist Bestiary. It's so cold in the studio. This is the fourth one that we're doing in a row. I'm literally starting to go crazy because I think that my brain is starting to frost over like the fjord in Frozen when Elsa runs on it. I was gonna do a bit and then I forgot.
I think you did a bit still anyways.
Anyway, my name's Amity. I'm one of your podcast hosts. I think that if I was in Middle Earth, I would probably be Pippin. Pippin is the character I relate to the most. This is Jamin.
Hi.
You would be Treebeard.
No, in somebody's
I think you would be Treebeard.
in somebody's inner healing session, Jesus made me Sam.
What? Really?
So I'm Sam.
Oh, wait, that's so cutie. I love that.
And Jesus was Gandalf.
And then we're BFFs because Sam and Pippin hang out. Aww. Which means you have to be one of the hobbits too.
Okay.
You could be Merry. Ooh. You don't want to be Frodo. He's a little dork.
Poor Frodo. Saves the world and everybody hates him.
First of all, not everybody hates him. I don't hate him. We could do a whole episode about
on Frodo.
Yes. And he is a loser. And
he saved the world.
He didn't save the world. Samwise Gamgee saved the world.
With the help of Frodo. If it had been swapped and Sam was wearing the necklace, Frodo would have been the one.
No. I disagree.
Okay. Sam has supernatural powers over sin, but Frodo did
I guess.
Okay. All right.
He's like Tom Bombadil.
No, he's
Maybe you
not.
could be Tom Bombadil.
Are you Tom? You should lead this episode if you're Tom Bombadil, because the ring has no effect on you.
Yeah. Anyway, we're talking about... What are we talking about?
I don't know anymore.
Oh. What's the episode about?
I don't... It's when...
We said we were going to do one about...
How we treat people.
Oh, yeah. How did Jesus treat the demonized?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, because...
Spoiler alert, he was nice to them.
Well, thanks for ruining it. Never mind, that's the whole episode. Yeah, so how do we treat the demonized is a great way to start, right? Uh-huh. What are the things that people demonize?
The shorter list would be what are the things that people don't demonize.
Correct.
It seems like that you can be made an other for any sort of opinion that you hold nowadays. Mm-hmm. If you believe in something, there is a plethora of people in the world who believe the opposite and will look down on you because of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are complex, things that are moral issues, things that are political issues, things that are opinions and like silly little hee hee ha ha. If you like Frodo Baggins, I look down on you. That's a joke. I'm kidding. I like Frodo too. But like that's an example of what someone who is. So they might say that. If they weren't me, I would never say that.
Mental health issues people demonize.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
If you read, there's a good book. My Body is Not a Prayer Request. I want to say her name is Amy, but it's been a while since I read it. That is a great book because you see her life. I believe she's in a wheelchair. And the amount of things that people have just said to her throughout time that have demonized her in some sense, it's the list is huge and sad. And it goes in so many different routes. You know, if you just believed, you'd be healed. Maybe there's something wrong with you, and all these other things. So people with physical health issues, mental health issues.
Yep.
If you land on kind of like the autism scales, addictions, things like these. There's a lot of space that people see those things and they're just like, demon. Now, I work a few different jobs, but one of my jobs is to pastor.
Seven jobs.
Four. One of my jobs is to pastor people with special needs, and they are the kindest, greatest people in the world. Yes. You guys would love these guys.
I wanna come hang out.
You should.
A couple Sundays.
They're amazing. They are the most wonderful people in the world. Now, when you see one of them go through a seizure, if you are very biblically minded, you're going to have some moments come to your head where like a kid has seizures and he keeps trying to throw himself into the fire. And because you've lived in the Bible and you're not used to seeing a seizure brought on by a scientific perspective, you're going to be like, maybe this guy's got a demon. You know, it's like, no, a lot of these kids have seizures. We see them all the time. And it's not because of demons. It's just because seizures happen. They're whatever, complex scientific thing that causes this is going on there. But at the same time, it is difficult because you're like, well, that particular Bible story where the seizure is happening, it was a demon that seemed to be causing it. And so you also can't be like, demons can't do that, which then causes people to like just kind of choose a side, like, oh, well, it's all science. Oh, well, it's all demons. And it's like, the world, as we've said in many episodes now, is more complicated than that. And we don't have all the answers to everything. But I have never gone up to any of my special needs congregants and been like, you need an exorcism. Now, if their parents approached me or like, I'd just be curious what would happen if we had a session, sure, I will gracefully enter that conversation because you welcomed me in to see what might happen. That is how I work with everybody. I don't force them into deliverance or anything like that. I just meet you where you're at and we see what happens. But I don't have to conclude that it's demons just because something is off. But yeah, the any community dealing with mental health or physical disabilities often gets demonized. So anything else I'm missing? Who else often gets demonized? So far, we've just said everything. So
yeah,
but there are particular groups that get it heavier
more
than
often
others.
than others. I think you hit the main ones.
Yeah. So if we were to have a better understanding as to how to work with those who are legitimately demonized, we would turn to Jesus. And how does he enter those conversations? So you guys have any stories that come to mind that are good rules of thumb as to how we would deal with it?
Like based on scripture?
Yep.
I think that first and foremost, he humanizes them. Like he takes the labels that society has kind of set upon these demon afflicted people and he treats them as though they are people, and he like gives them back the piece of their humanity that they have lost in the eyes of like their surrounding communities. So I think that that's really, really important to make sure that you like are keeping their dignity and keeping their humanity and not treating them differently than how you would treat any of your other brothers and sisters in Christ who have asked for your help with any situation.
Makes me think of the man that was would break his shackles and would run around naked, and Jesus cast many demons out, and then when the other people from the town came, he was sitting beside him. He was clothed. He was in conversation with him. He didn't say, okay, cast out, now go ahead and go, because I don't really want to be associated with demons, and, I have a ministry and, a reputation to protect. No, he was in conversation, in relationship with this person.
Yeah.
And, story time. My exorcism, how I knew that I needed one was I had a dream. I had a dream that very vividly called out the fact that I needed an exorcism, and it just so happened that there wasn't an availability for 2 weeks for it to happen. And during those 2 weeks, I just have to say, I felt, and I'm sure it was the demons preying on my mind as well, I felt so dirty. I felt so like I was a horrible person, and, my pastor would come and pray with me, and he would just put his hand on my shoulder, and I'd be like, oh, don't touch me. Like, why oh, why would you do that? And he just had this compassion for me and, just treated me like a beloved daughter of the king that I was. And that was huge for me, even as big as the deliverance, I believe. The fact that he was able to love me as I was, and that in turn showed me that Jesus was able to love me, even in my struggles, even when, I was dealing with that, and that compassion was huge for me.
Mm-hmm. And I like that you highlighted that aspect of community, because in many cases, Jesus continues that community. Like I think about like Mary Magdalene, right, who had 7 demons cast out of her, and then she went around and followed Jesus as one of his larger group of disciples, even to the end of his life and to his grave. And like the continuation of that teaching and mentoring and community and friendship, I think is really important too. Like I know, Jamin, a lot, if not all of the people that you have led through deliverance are people that you still continue to like invest in, and are still like a part of their lives in large ways too. So I think that that is also a really important aspect of it, of like, this is not just like all right, here you go, come on in, okay, demon, all right, blah, 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 they're gone. Now, next person, come on in, I'll see you probably, I guess, in heaven, maybe. Next person, come on in, da, 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 da. It's like it's a continual, that's the word I was looking for.
Communital.
It's a continual community of like togetherness and learning and growing and investment and those kinds of things.
Yeah, casting out demons is heavy work. You're building disciples when you do it. These are the people that you now will be working with and will help you with future deliverances with other people, because they're the only ones that get it because they've been there. It was really cool at our Reveal conference to have like 10 people up on stage who were all doing a Q&A, just helping people understand what they had been through and things like that. And that's kind of how Jesus did it. He elevated the people that he did deliverance with. The Gerasene demoniac that you already mentioned, like he was crazy. He's cutting himself. He's bleeding everywhere. He's screaming on mountaintops, running around naked. The whole community knows him, but Jesus puts him in his right mind. And then this guy wants to go with Jesus, and Jesus is like, you're going to serve a better purpose if you stay here. So stay here and do ministry and tell everybody about what I've done for you. Jesus elevates him. That's discipleship. There is some guy running around casting out demons in Jesus' name, and the disciples catch wind of it, and they go to Jesus to kind of tattletale. There's a guy out there casting out demons, Jesus. What do you want to do about it? He's like, nothing. Great. Look, who's not against you is for you. Why are you trying to mess this up? Let him do it. So like that guy, Jesus, we don't know the interactions Jesus had with that guy, but that guy is now a disciple, and he's doing deliverance ministry for Jesus where he's at, because he's got the faith. Mary Magdalene, 7 demons kicked out, and now she's on the team. Like Jesus had female disciples. They're mentioned a few times throughout scriptures, and she's there all the way to the bitter end, raised up as the first apostle with the good news sent to the other disciples who are hiding behind closed doors to tell them about what God has done through the resurrection. So you have these stories of people who used to be demonized being elevated, but demons like to demonize. Like the story that you just shared, where like for 2 weeks you just felt gross and things like that. I had someone else who, at their most severe part of the journey, would occasionally have open visions. So like reality around them was skewed with their eyes open. And there was a time where everything they touched would just turn black and like leave tarry residue. So like the idea that the demons were trying to instill through these visions is, you are gross, you are tar. Everything you touch is tarnished by what you touch and what you do. And like that was, the demons were demonizing them, trying to make them feel that they were just gross. And when they would go to sleep, they would have dreams that they were tar and everything they touched. And when they were awake, they would see everything that they touched and be afraid to touch people. But Jesus always touch the untouchable, right? Like he would go up to lepers who were thought to be incredibly contagious, and he would touch them. And instead of leprosy moving up him, Jesus would move onto the leper, and they would be healed. And that was how Jesus worked with all kinds of people. And he would shut up demons. And part of the reason was because they knew who he was, and he didn't want that news getting out. It was too early for that. But I also feel like probably part of the reason was Jesus was trying to protect them as people. Like, if the demon just makes a scene and is tossing them around everywhere while everyone watches, it's not very humanizing for the person. So Jesus would try to kind of heal them quickly or in secret. Others he would heal and just try to create space for. So it was very humanizing about the whole process. The people that no one would have ever given a chance to, he gave a chance to. Yeah. Anything else we'd pitch in there?
I just had a thought, not a very good thought, but, if Jesus was just going for power and reputation, how amazing would it be if he kind of stirred up those demons in people and made them manifest in front of everybody else, and then was like, okay, now you go. And people would be like, oh my gosh, this man is important. This man is, and that's not what he did. Like you were saying, he did it in secret. He did it, in compassion and kindness.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of power that he could have drawn to himself in a lot of different ways, but went for the human approach. So when you find people who are often demonized, but they actually do want you to check, like, those are safe spaces because they've asked you to. I've had one person I've worked with that has had a lot of mental health issues, has a lot of meds. I never told them to stop taking their meds or anything like that, but we worked through a bunch of the mental health issues. And they're in a clearer place than they have ever been, and quite spiritually healthy, getting healthier every week. And that's after years of trying to find the fix through all kinds of medicine and all kinds of issues. But in that particular case, it is probably a mix of mental health and also spiritual health. And who knows which one is which, and who cares? My job is to just be faithful to them, love them, and help them through it, as it is with anybody. And whenever we start demonizing people, we overstep. And so we have to be cautious too, because people can be quite fragile after they've gone through a lot of deliverance, especially if it takes a while. Like, there are some people I've worked with where I'm like, what you are facing right now is clearly demons. Like, those are not your thoughts. They are planting them. And I recognize the way that they've worked in you in the past and the way that they're working in you right now. Now, I don't think I'm wrong, but they have just been on the journey for so long that now it just feels like everything's demons all the time. And I realized I have to change the way that I talk about this. Even though they know demons are real, even though they know that they have them, I'm feeding their narrative because they're starting to feel like it's just always demons, isn't it? It's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. So I got to pay attention to the page that we're on too. Like, sometimes you're cool with that, and then other times maybe that's kind of hard to hear, and you're just like, oh, okay. And so when everything becomes demons, then you are demonizing again, and you got to be able to step out of that world from time to time, or a lot, if you want to be balanced. So, other thoughts?
I don't have any thoughts. Sorry. I'm trying to...
The Ford of her brain.
I'm trying
to
pull up thoughts, and I'm just cold.
That's all right. I think we're getting the general gist here.
Yeah.
Like, well, next time you're reading your Bible and coming across stories of demons that Jesus is dealing with, pay attention to the way that he deals with it. Because it's very different from the people that you'll run into doing deliverance ministry a lot of times. Because let's be honest, like, you heal someone, it's awesome. You you speak a prophetic word and it happens, it's awesome. But there are probably few spiritual dealings that feel more powerful than telling a demon to do something and it has to do it. So there's a lot of space for like power to overtake your mind and be like, I cast out demons, the dark world listens to me and they fear me, and that, I'm not saying that's what Amity just gave me a glare. I'm just saying there's a lot of space for deliverance people to let it go to their head.
Well,
to
the apostles.
demonize.
That's what the
the
apostles
apostles, it went to their head, and then they stopped being able to do it.
Wait, tell me the story.
When they were like, hey, we've been trying to cast out demons,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
why can't we do it? And Jesus is like, you need to pray. Like, you get back in line, bro. Figure out your own, what's going on there. Because, you're not doing this with the Holy Spirit anymore. You've completely turned it into something that it shouldn't be. And, the demons you're up against are only going to be able to be cast out with prayer.
Yeah, and there's a few different ways to interpret that one. I don't know how much pride plays a part. It could be a part because they're obviously confused as to what's happening. We have typically found in the sessions we do that demons don't just come out when you tell them. You got to work through the inner healing to get them out. So it may be that they eventually just ran into a demon that's like, I can't just pull this one out. What's going on? And Jesus is like, well, you needed answers, so you got to pray. But whatever the case, they face that situation, as we all will at some point if you've done deliverance long enough. And you have to figure out how to be humble enough to sort through, what do I do next? How do I get through this? And if you just come with the pride aspect of, no, they always listen when I tell them what to do, then your next step that you're going to do is, and you either don't have enough faith or you're doing something wrong, and that's why they're still staying here.
Yeah.
Which is not how Jesus talks to people. Jesus did not demonize people to get demons out. Jesus prayed for answers and then followed what God told him to do. Right? Whereas when we just come in strong-handed and it doesn't listen, we assume that the world is messed up or the person's messed up. Because we are perfect.
Which is such a dangerous mindset, because then, in addition to demonizing someone, you can turn a person into a project so quickly with that mindset, which is never something that Jesus did. And I mean, Jesus, God had the most right ability to be like, and I am in a place of superiority to you. I am up here and I'm coming down to fix your little issues, you silly little man. And that was never the attitude. And so I think it's, again, kind of with the pride, the dangers of pride. It can, if you are not coming into it with the attitude that Jesus always had, it can become very easy to be like, and you're my next little project, and I'm gonna fix you because I'm the exorcist and I'm the person who's so in line with God that I can make all the demons and all the problems go away and la 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 la. Well, now you are not humanizing, and it's not necessarily demonizing, but you're doing a third also bad thing of you're making them a project and they're not a person anymore, and they're not someone that you're discipling anymore. They're just an item on the checklist of what more cool stuff can I do with my Holy Spirit powers? And that's not the attitude that Jesus had either. So that's another danger that it's important to be wary of.
Yeah. And if any of you are getting in deliverance ministry, this is part of the reason that I love that all of my assistants have generally gone through deliverance themselves. It's because we all have to walk in with humility, right? Yeah. It's we're not up against anything that we didn't have to face ourselves. We also had these problems, and we want to help you with yours. It's also helpful because we all know what we had to face to get out of it. And so when you see when someone's struggling with it, because they will, because these are long-formed habits, rather than demonizing them, you can just be like, I remember how long it took me to finally wrap my head around this, and one step at a time, So, yeah, you come in with humility. In many ways, deliverance is very, very similar to recovery programs, if not almost the same in some ways, just with a power component put onto it. And when you go through recovery, you come with the same things. Everybody here has been through this. We know how long it takes. We will use tough love where it's needed, but for the most part, we're just here to walk with you gracefully one day at a time. So So yeah, do it the Jesus way, which looks like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness,
Yes.
goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control.
Yep.
If you start turning them into projects, you dehumanize them, and you start looking at them as demons themselves, and you have joined the message that demons were already trying to communicate. Because if a demon can get away with not being found out, they'll go for that, because then they can just do their work in the background without ever being noticed. But if they're going to be found out, then they need to make you feel gross about it.
Yep.
So that you will then shield people from you because you don't want them to feel icky around you or whatever. And none of those are the right responses. So, humanize.
Yeah. I concur. Retweet everything. Retweet everything Jamie just said.
This is Re-X now, right? Is it Rex? Is that how you do it?
We're not.
What is this?
I'm not
Twitter?
getting into. No.
Is this
X, formerly known as Twitter. That's how far off the system of social
out of
media
it.
that
I'm
Tasha
so
is.
out
We
of
are on
it.
3 completely different worlds of the way that we understand the
We are.
internet. And the
I
way,
love
and
that.
the way that Tasha understands the internet is she doesn't.
I know Facebook and I know YouTube.
Oh.
Wow. That's it.
Those came out in the
I
early
have-
thousands.
I have
Before I was alive.
an what is it called? Instagram account that I get on like
Do you really?
once a year. Yeah.
Give me a follow, girl.
I don't know how.
That's amazing.
I think someone on YouTube said, "Hey, I'm on Instagram. Come check me out over there." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, let's do this." So I made an account, and I'm like, I can't find them, and yeah.
You
Oh,
shouldn't just
Tasha.
follow everyone that tells you to follow them on Instagram.
But you should
That's
follow
rude.
me because we're friends in real life. You can see all my cute little pictures I post. That'd be so fun.
That would be fun.
Anyway, this has been the Exorcist Bestiary. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, my handle, just kidding. If anyone has, here's something that I think is interesting that we could do. I didn't preface this with Jamin. I'm just gonna make a decision about the way the podcast goes now.
Executive decision.
When we get together and do these podcasts, we're like, oh, what are some good topics that we should talk about? If anyone has questions about
that.
stuff, I know sometimes there'll be comments on the TikToks that we post or on the YouTubes that we post, but sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to like ask my questions because it's like I don't want to be the person who has questions about demons. But like in the spirit of like humanizing and normalizing the stuff that we talk about and like running away from the things that want to demonize you. If there's any questions that you think would be good conversations to have on future episodes of this podcast, if there's things like, oh, what did you mean when you said this? Or here's something that you haven't even touched on that I'm curious about. Feel free to leave a comment or two. And it can either be addressed in the comment section or we might be able to do like a whole video dedicated on that conversation. Just in case anybody's out there and has questions, go ahead and ask them. And we'll see you guys next time on the Exorcist Bestiary.
I love you,
I am
besties.
going to go make soup in my house that is warm. And it's going to be great.
I'm going to eat ice cream in this garage.
No, you're not. That is a fib. Anyway, bye, besties.
was my
My tummy hurts.
Boston ass impression.
Your who impression? I am not socially.
Boston ass Star Wars. Misa, I don't know anything. That's
That just sounds like
grunting?
Treebeard.
Oh, Greybeard, I get.
no, it's Jar Jar Binks is like president. Doing my
Oh, my.
Misa got Jar Jar Binks. Misa,
Husband.
your humble servant.
Misa no like Jar Jar
Binks.
just. You haven't seen Star Wars,
I
right?
have
Never mind.
not seen Star Wars. Sorry that I haven't seen Star Wars because it's literally so boring, and every time I've tried, I've fallen asleep because nothing interesting happens, and there's only
Space.
one guy in it who's hot. Lord of the Rings, everyone
who's
in
the hot guy?
What? What do you mean? Emperor
time.
Palpatine?
What are her options?